Hello and welcome. This is the second day, I cannot believe it, of the So You Want to Be an Author, Now What? Tele-summit. I am your host, Nikki Woods, and yesterday was a really, really great day. We had good energy. We had Vera Green, who kicked us off at our first session at 1 p.m. Eastern, and she talked a lot about just the why of being an author. She just co-authored a book, Loving in the Grown Zone, with her partner, Alfred Edmonds Jr., and it's been doing phenomenally well, but she was really great at setting the stage of just the whys of being an author and the benefits of being an author and what kind of comes next once you've written your book. I know a lot of people still have questions about the whole process of writing, and we're glad to answer those, but we also want to think about what comes after you've written your book and you put it out there. The second call at 7 p.m. Eastern yesterday was with Finesse Mitchell, and what I really picked Finesse's brain about, because he had kind of a Cinderella story when it comes to publishing. I mean, he was approached about being a columnist for Essence magazine. It went really, really well, and a book agent just happened to be a fan of the column, and she ran into him in New York and was like, I want to publish a book. And Vanessa was like, okay, and so it was kind of this whirlwind experience for him, which is a lot different than the way most of us get books published. So it was really interesting to talk to him, and one of the distinctions, and I think one of the aha moments from the conversation I had with Finesse was that a lot of people write. Not many people are authors, or maybe not as many people as you think. So you can write at home, but until you decide that you're going to put that baby out in the world, you are really not an author. So this is really all about what happens once you've put it out in the world and you have become an author. So I'm excited to continue the conversation. Just a few notes. If you're in the private Facebook group, we've been having conversations there. You're more than welcome to continue. We will take some questions live at the end of the call with our guests for today. So if you have questions, make sure that you're writing them down, and towards the end of our hour together, we'll definitely try to get you on if you have questions. But like I said, if you don't make it, definitely leave the question in the Facebook group, and we'll make sure that it gets answered. Or it could be answered by another one of our guests. Also, make sure if you're sharing socially that you use the hashtag #BeAnAuthor. I sent out everybody's Twitter handle for all of the speakers, their Twitter handles, and make sure you're following them. Aside from just this call, they give great information about their walk in life and the things that they do with their businesses and their books and their lives. So make sure that you're following them and gleaning all that information outside of this call. And also know that there is a greater conversation. I think that these calls are great, that you get tips and you get motivation, but there are going to be some greater opportunities for you to be more involved in me and what I'm doing and becoming an author. So just keep listening for that information. I'll give you more of that as we go. But I'm super excited for our guest today, so I definitely want to introduce her and bring her on now. Her name is Stephanie Bavaro. She is she's the founder, the creator, just the energy behind Grateful Women Talks, and they are it's just an enormous amount of information that she has put together based on a group of very powerful women. And it started out as calls and talks and just an audio series that really has been changing lives, across the globe. And then she decided she wanted to do more, and she gathered up all of that information, and she used that not only as a coach, but as, like I said, the founder of the Grateful Women Talks, and she put it together in a book, and it's going to be a series of books. And so I'm really excited to talk to her today about collaborating and how she came up with this and all of that. So, Stephanie, how are you?
Hello, Nikki. I'm doing great. I'm really looking forward to sharing with everybody. This is a very fun topic. This has been a fun journey around books this year, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. I mean, where did the concept for Grateful Woman Talks even come up? How did that come to you, or where did you first start, getting the idea?
Sure. So, I will tell you that symbol that you see where it says, like, what we think success looks like, that straight line, and what it actually looks like, that really weedy, curvy line, yeah, that's really accurate, because it actually came out of me being willing to walk away from it all, of entrepreneuring. In other words, I've been a very successful leadership, business, project management coach, and I just felt like I wanted to serve at a higher level, and I knew the word grateful, that GREATFUL, life that's great and full. I knew that resonated, and at first it was grateful sex, and it wasn't about sex, which is the irony of why I had to let go of it. It was about that when a woman is in touch with her feminine energy, when she's comfortable with that, she actually makes better decisions. We make better decisions in every area of our lives. But I just really felt like it was too hard of a battle to fight at this time, and I was willing to let it all go. And then Grateful Woman, the single grateful woman, a grateful woman that could identify herself as this woman who lives from gratitude and abundance. I saw it, and I still took a moment to breathe with it and had a coaching session. Those who are on the call who know me, I had a coaching session with Lisa Nichols in my house, and it was about storytelling, but she said to me, "What is it that you want?" And I was like, and there was supposed to be a politically correct answer of, all right, I want a book, I want a course, I want a coach. And I said, you know what I want in this attitude? You know what I want? I want Grateful Woman to be a viable business I could do anywhere in the world, and I want to be able to live in Italy with my partner, Raffi, the guy I was seeing at the time for 5 years. And she's like, and I said it with this little hee-hee, waiting for her to go, oh, man, that's, and she just went, great, let's do that. And I was like, and I realized in that moment, and I share this story because it's going to hopefully unblock people who sit there. It showed me that in that moment I had created a false belief that I had to choose between the life I wanted and the career I wanted. And as soon as that, I just literally spontaneously dismissed that belief. I was like, oh, okay, how do we do it? And it was actually Nicole Roberts-Jones who said, well, why don't you do a tele-summit? And I mean, I was so new to the entrepreneuring world, an infopreneuring world. I was like, what is that? She's like, well, it's when you get, you get with people and you interview them and you share it and you cross-promote. And I'm like, I love it. I'm in it, because I was surrounded by just so many superstars. So I created Grateful Woman Talks, celebrating all that we are, from our bodies to the bedroom, from our babies to the boardroom, a tele-summit, 28 women, 28 days, in September 2013 that just crazy resonated with people. My list grew from 70 to almost 3,000 in 6 weeks, and the event was just really successful. So the thing I always highlight about that is just the clarity. The clarity cleared the path of fear. And the book came out of it because I've now done, since then, I created a membership site so I didn't have to just do another tele-summit, that I could just provide content when I wanted, but also was to create the book. And I've done 70 talks, but I took my 9 favorite talks that were on the subject of giving from your overflow starts with self-care, about women giving too much and not taking care of ourselves first, that I wanted that to be the first topic that we address. So my first book is that, and I did specifically, like you said, call it Volume 1, for the idea of being able to have multiple volumes and stuff like that. So I know that was sort of a longer introduction, but I feel like that's sort of all the foundation that everyone needs to know just to get us up to speed to really dig into the hows.
No, I think that's great. And I mean, it leads me, to several follow-up questions, but one of them that I was really interested in, and I know people have asked me, and you're the perfect person to talk about it, but I'm going to save that for just a minute. But I guess I'm curious, because one of my things has been in 2014 is really driving home how, especially as women, when we have so many things going on. I mean, I think of myself, as a single mother who's really away from her foundation, my family, my children's, their father and his family, and how I've had to really build another network to sustain us in Dallas. Just the theme of collaborating and partnering up and, bartering and trading. And so I'm wondering when for you knew that collaborating was going to be the thing for your business.
that day. In other words, I didn't know I was allowed to. I didn't know I was allowed to. I always, for me, I'm not, a lot of women are going to go, I'm not really great at asking for what I want. No, let me correct that statement. I haven't in the past been necessarily great at asking for what I want. And when I heard about this tele-summit idea, I was like, that to me felt very win-win, that I could create this world-class event that everybody who was a part of it, every speaker who was a part of it, every participant who was a part of it just felt so loved and so taken care of and so treated well that this would be a real win-win for everybody. And when I felt like I was able to come to the table with something, then it was really easy for me to ask. And because people say, like, how did you get all these people to say yes? And the first answer I give is, I asked. Now, I didn't just ask. I actually created a tele-summit success program, Nikki, because a lot of people wanted to understand how I'd had that level of success with my tele-summit because it wasn't the norm. It wasn't just the speakers I had. There was a certain way that I did the tele-summit. But the one thing that I say, like, I had a specific way that I asked, and part of it was helping that person understand why they would be a special part of it. So for me, it was a place of joy to spontaneously be able to create something that was collaborative. I actually have the website transformationalmatchmaker.com because that's what I love is connecting people. I don't care about taking people to their finish line, Nikki. I just care about helping people take their next best step, whatever it is.
And that really is a gift. I mean, that really is a gift. It's like even, and I can be too transparent at times, but I am totally honest about, because it's probably been in the last 2 years that I've really met people that are good at connecting other people. And whereas I may have a really deep Rolodex, I don't always put it together like, person A should hook up with person B because then project C will develop. But when you meet somebody that can do it and do it well, it is really something to see, because I've met people and been introduced to people that I would never think or never would have thought would have added to my business or to my life the way that they have, but somebody else saw it.
Right. And it's also about having, which I think you do have, is having the humility and self-esteem to both stand in your light and allow and shine the light on that other person. So when I do a Grateful Woman talk, it's clear that I am navigating the conversation, and yet my goal is to just shine a light on that person and their brilliance so that whatever that person in my tribe needs to hear, that they hear those words. Those are my goals. That in that way, I'm almost sort of that passive matchmaker in that I just have a goal that you hear those words that resonate with you, that you just know where to go from there. And I absolutely believe, Nikki, because we've done our talk together, that that is a gift that you absolutely have, and that's why one of the reasons why I said yes to be part of your tele-summit, and I say no to many other invitations.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But one thing that I learned is this is really my first official tele-summit, and I wanted to kind of do it small because I had heard, what an undertaking it was, and indeed it is. How long did it take you to put your system together? Because you have probably the best system I've seen of putting on a tele-summit.
I can't help it. No, I'm not saying it from a place of bragging, y'all. My background is in project management, project leadership, communication, and organization. This is the stuff I can't help but do well. I actually created Grateful Woman Talks while I was working full-time, while I was consulting full-time. So I don't want to hear anybody say, you have to have that's all you do. No, I was and I created my Grateful Gear, my line of like T-shirts and water bottles and all that fun stuff, all along the same time. It's all about blocking out time. But I did give myself time. So I started the infancy of the tele-summit, like writing out the project plan and starting to look at the processes and forms in April, and the event started September 1st or September 3rd. It was like the first September 3rd through 30th. So I gave myself May, June, July, August, 5 months.
And that's about right. That's about the time you need it. you can log on to Stephanie's website, gratefulwoman.com, and you can see all of the things that she has, and you can even apply to be a grateful woman yourself, which I guess brings me to my next question, because you said that you yourself turned down being a part of tele-summits and other events or whatever, but how do you decide who's a good fit? I'm sorry?
Sometimes I do. Do. How do I decide when to say yes?
How do you that? But also, how do you decide who you want to feature as a grateful woman?
Well, I have to admit that lately it's mostly people have come to me who are going to be, can I do one? But often, Nikki, it's like I meet someone and maybe they've just literally posted something in Facebook that sort of inspired me. John Astley is he's a relationship coach for women. So a man, given the man's perspective, his relationship coach for women, he had posted about the fact that he and his partner, his girlfriend, broke up earlier this year. And I had to end the relationship with my partner in Italy, and it wasn't from lack of love. It was just logistically, it just wasn't meant to be. And it's hard for people to understand how you can love someone and let them go, how it just isn't right. And the words he wrote really resonated with me, and I just sent him a message in Facebook, and I was really, I admit I was a little bit scared. And I just said the kind of the wording that I use when I ask people to be part of the tele-summit about, what I'm doing, what the movement is, why I would want him to be part of it, and he just replied back, I'm in. So, again, I think if I hear someone who has a message that I feel like is going to resonate with my tribe, or I just like what they're doing, I'm going to ask them.
And so how do you decide when you want to be a part of something?
For that, sometimes it's really how I'm asked. I've been asked where it just felt really like the person didn't truly understand how they were going to serve, what they were really bringing to the table. And it was all about, well, you're going to promote this, and then we're going to have cross affiliates, and I'm going to get half of your money, and you're going to get half of this. And I'm like, to me, that's not what tele-summits are about. It's just not. It's all about connection. And if it's about anything building your business, it's absolutely about list building. But I really feel like it's about serving and building connections, because for a lot of people who are part of a tele-summit, this is the first time they've had exposure to these people. And so for me, it's just what is their message, what is their intention, how clear are they, how clean do their processes look, those kind of questions are what I ask.
No, and that's awesome, and I think that it's something that people really need to hear, because one of my biggest lessons, I think, of 2014 is that you really can't open yourself up and your brand up to everybody. And sometimes, like you said, it's just not a connection. Sometimes it's just not the right time. And sometimes, people are just not walking in this life the way that I walk. And so, I try on one level to help everybody, but you just have to be very careful to make sure that everything is in alignment with you and what you're doing. And so that's a big question that people have had about collaborations as well. How do you decide?
I want to get into talking about how we the logistics of the book in case people have questions specifically about the book, but I want to reiterate, because you and I both know everything that we're talking about now about collaboration, it doesn't matter if the manifestation of the collaboration is a tele-summit, a webinar, a book, a course, a JV, whatever it is, because what we're talking about in this talk is about collaboration. So you may be asked, I've been asked to be part of books, and every single one of them I've said no thank you, except for I'm part of Tina Brinkley Potts' book, because I am in love with her. I love her, so I said yes to her. And I'm doing Christine Closer's Pebbles in the Pond next year, because I am working on my first true book, my book that is a journey, and we could talk a little bit about that versus the Grateful Woman Talks type book. It's called Bad Little Good Girl, The Toxic Cost of Always Doing the Right Thing. And writes in quotes. It's juicy, juicy. It's my journey. It's juicy. It's going to be amazing. And so I wanted to work with Christine on that, and part of that is being Pebbles and Pomp. So when we talk about collaborating and as women, like everyone who's listening, men or women, trusting your instincts about what you'd want to partner in, and if especially with there's a lot of collaborative books where they want to charge you to be part of that collaboration, just really pay attention to what that means, what that investment means, and how you truly feel like it would serve you. Like, it's not selfish to think these things and to say, like you might say, yeah, I wouldn't invest in a book simply because somebody, and I won't give any names, but like somebody had their name on it, so I knew it would go to number one. I would be part of a book where I'm like, I really just love that person's message. I just really love what they're doing. I really just want to be part of that. If we're in it just to get to be part of a number one, we just need to check our intentions and just make sure that it then would bring us happiness on the other side. Because if God forbid it didn't go to number one, or if something happened, we just wouldn't want to tie our esteem to something that's false.
Absolutely. So let's take the first, well, actually it was the second part, but let's take that first, and then I want to talk about your next book. But one of the questions that I've had posed to me, and I was saving this for you because I knew that you had just gone through this, is how do you take one product and then flip it into another? So what was your process once you had the audio version of Grateful Woman Talks done? What was the process in taking that and turning it into a book?
Well, it wasn't that hard of a leap, because one of the things that I had done with each one of the talks was to create transcripts. And again, like I had an awesome little process around that. I'm the process girl. If I'm going to rinse and repeat, I better have a really simple process for that, because I don't like rinsing and repeating from scratch. But so I already had the transcripts. But I didn't want a book of transcripts. I wanted it to read the book. And actually, TJ said, I'd rather really read a book sometimes than listen to audios, versus I really am the opposite. I'd rather, especially if the author's reading it, I'd love to hear an audiobook read by the author. And I thought, well, that would be fun, but I wouldn't just want all of them. I wouldn't want all 28, and they were growing, and I thought, I want a theme. And I thought, if I only wrote one book, what would be the most important theme? And one of the themes that threaded through so many of the talks was this idea of that we as women, we need to take care of ourselves first. We need to put on our oxygen mask first before we begin to serve. And I thought, if that's the only book I wrote, of all the series, if all the Grateful Women, that's the only one that came out, I would be totally thrilled. And so what I did was I went into my pool of talks and went, where is the talks where we sort of went into that? And I picked some that were about life, some that were about business, some were about health, some were about even like Nikki Klug has hers one about creating your personal space. How do we approach this subject of giving from your overflow starts with self-care? How do we approach this subject from all the different angles of our life so we can get a holistic view of that? And so I took the transcripts, and then we edited the transcripts to read chapters. I then sent them back to, and just for the record, you guys, I didn't ask for any additional money from any of the speakers. I set up the agreement so that I owned the content, I owned the rights, and I could repurpose it, but they didn't have to pay anything additional to be part of the book or anything like that. That was just part of the gift. And so I sent them back the edited version. They could edit it if they want. They could send me a quote. We compiled the book, and then what was really important was that I wrote the introduction, the what's next, and I included a chapter from me.
And what did your chapter focus on?
My chapter was when I look at how I want my physical body to be, it's not a specific number on the scale, and it's not a specific size. That when I'm truly focused where I need to be on the action of making my body healthy, the words that always come out are lean, strong, and flexible. And what I realize is when I think about what lean means, what strong means, and what flexible means, that it's really in life that we need to be lean, strong, and flexible, that the principles of lean and strong and flexible apply to life, not just to our bodies. and that the clearer that we can be about what does lean mean, right? Like, not having too much drama, not having too much noise, being clear about what we want as individuals, like that it was, and then what is having strength in our convictions, but flexibility in how we do it. So I sort of played with strong, lean, and flexible and how it weaves into our lives and how we can use them as tools to have the life that we want.
That's awesome. So what was the post book creation like? The promoting, the publishing, what was that like for you?
Well, that was super fun. Well, one thing I did different also, which I don't know any other books that have done it, but I'm sure there are some, is every one of the Grateful Woman Talks came with a bonus. So what I did was, I'm like, well, if somebody buys the book and gets the chapters, they should still get the bonuses. So I created a special web page that if you just, and you didn't have to join the membership site or anything. If you just did like first name and email just to get you into the site, you could have access to all the bonuses of all the chapters that were in that book. Plus there were like tweetables, and you know how sometimes you're listening to somebody and they talk about a book and you're like, oh, God, I want that book, and then you don't write it down or you forget what it was. So every book that was mentioned in my book, we put a link to that and things like that. So there was a special little page. So when we went to do the launch, I actually wanted to keep it really low-key. I did an online launch. I had a call. I had a Facebook event. And, again, I just think it was, there is a definite process to how to categorize it. We went with Kindle only in the beginning to keep it simple because the woman who did my editing and publicity, she had been in and out of the hospital, so we just really wanted to keep things simple for her. And so, like, the paperback is coming out, I think, this week. I just have to get the final proof in my hand because the coloring on the cover was a little bit off. But so we went live. So I had an event, and it was just, the classic formula of driving people to a certain day to go ahead and get it, and it was only 99 cents on Kindle. Even now, my book's only $2.99 on Kindle. I'm like, I just want to get it into people's hands. That's all I want. Mm-hmm. And so it went to number one in the U.S., Germany, Australia, and Japan, which is nice of them to distribute themselves across the continents like that. And
that is nice.
But it was super fun. And then my favorite thing was I was actually in my other category in women in business. I was number 2 after Lean In. And so there's this great little screenshot where it says Women in Business and has my cover next to the Lean In cover. I personally think my cover is better looking, but it was still fun. It's still fun to have that little screenshot. So and again, there's a process to that doesn't guarantee that you become a number 1 international bestseller, but there's absolutely a process that you can do to, facilitate that in this world right now.
Absolutely. I know the first time I got an email, because like with Amazon, when you purchase certain books, they'll recommend other books in your category. And the first time I got an email to me recommending my book for me to purchase, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
That wins is awesome. I got the highest compliment I got was, I got that Kindle app just so I could get your book. Because you don't have to have a Kindle to buy the Kindle version, because you could read it on your computer or an iPad or an Android or whatever. Right. And people think you need to actually have a Kindle. And it was really cute that I had a couple people who were like, I went ahead and got that app just so that I could have your book on. I'm like, well, there we go. Thank you.
That's awesome. So we had a question earlier. We were kind of hanging out before the official call actually started. And I'm going to go ahead and ask this first question, and then we'll start opening it up for questions and answers from everybody else. But what was your writing process like? Because I think with most people that I know, I mean, we live really, really busy, full lives. Just professionally, and then you try to have a personal life too, and it gets even more complicated. But what is your process like with the second book? What is the writing process been like for you?
Right, I'm a timer girl. Even though I'm a taskmaster, I need a timer. I'm one of those people where, I'll pick up something that needs to go to the kitchen, and I'll take it to the kitchen, and on the way I'll see something on the dining room table, and then I'll do that for a minute, and then that thing on the dining room table, then that needs to be put away there, and then I'm over there, and I do it. And like an hour later, the thing that was in my bedroom is now in the kitchen, and I've done 14 other things on the way, but they weren't in the plan, right? So if I don't focus myself and set a timer and go, I'm going to literally work on my book from 11 until 12:30, and that's it. And if I work more than that, great, but 11 until 12:30. Then when I look at my tasks, then it's like, okay, what's next? So when I was doing, when I first saw the title, I saw Bad Little Good Girl, I saw it, and I saw the juxtaposition of good and bad, that we must understand that we are both good and bad, and that we are neither good nor bad. And I wanted this imagery. While I was writing the book. So I worked with a girl on Fiverr, and I'd sketched it out, and I had drawn a halo with horns, and I had drawn this trident, the devil's trident, right, the pitchfork, the devil trident, with little gold magic fairy wands, and I had drawn this beautiful angel wings that are connected almost like a spine that connect to a beautiful devil's tail. And everything's really beautiful and stylized, and it's just this red and gold. And when I created those images, that just really, when I need to write, for this book, what's helped me is to physically have the imagery and to have an outline. So a friend of mine, Gosha Gorna, who is one of the Grateful Women Talks, she's actually was with me, and she's like, I want to talk this through with you, because I was being a little bit too organic. She says, I want to talk this through with you, and she's like, how are people's lives going to be different? What does it look like? And she asked sort of the basic questions of what I'd want to answer with the book, and basically we came up with the outline of the book from that. So one thing that I recommend to my coaching clients is, number one, divide and conquer the content. So in other words, go ahead and outline it. You can always add to the outline, but answer the kind of questions of like, what is the journey you're taking them on? What is their life going to be like afterwards? And that the answers to those will be things like your chapter headers. And then once you have your chapter headers, should that break down into bullets? And then for each one of those bullets, just then writing about that one thing. And once we divide and conquer that, and you allocate time, even if it's just a half an hour, where you get to close the door and put up I literally have a sign that says, like, I love you, silence, please. I have it says, like, please silence if there are any packages, deliver them downstairs. Like, I do go into my little, grateful cave and need a little bit of silence and close Facebook, and because I'm just easily distracted.
No, I am too, and that's why I never, unless it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't stay home, because I'll cook dinner at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll do laundry. I'll do everything I don't even like doing. But right, people think that it's something you can just do, and it's not. I mean, you may love doing it. You may love what comes out of it. You may need to do it just because of what you want to share, with the world. But it's not something that always comes easy.
It's not. Well, I love Roald Dahl. I mean, he's my favorite author in the whole world. Bless him. I miss him. In addition to the children's books that everyone knows, James and the Giant Peach, Willy Wonka, Chocolate Factory, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he wrote a lot of brilliant adult short stories. His artistry, he found, was in the short story. And he had a shed in the back of his property, and he would go there, and he had this big sort of palette that he put on his lap, and with the pencil and the da-da-da, and he went into his separate space for it. And I absolutely am a better writer when I'm sitting in a Pret or in a, somewhere where I'm sitting there with my headphones on and writing. When I'm home, you're right, like when I was at college, I had the neatest dorm room around exam time. Yeah, you do things that you, like I said, you wouldn't normally do just because it does whatever. I don't even know what it is, but I think that probably even if it's something we know we want, like we want to write this book, we have the message inside of it, we know it needs to come out. It doesn't exclude the need for just really basic discipline, including me. Like anyone who's telling you, oh yeah, I just sat down, it flowed out of me, just throw them, just ignore them. They're what we call a rose petal in a cesspool. Ignore them. They're an anomaly. We're just like, yeah, congratulations. That's the person who's like, yeah, I eat all the candy and all the junk food I weigh, and I never gain any weight. I can't talk to you anymore. We're just not going to talk for a while. It's not the norm. So I don't want anyone to compare and despair themselves with somebody who's like, oh, yeah, I just sat down and just flowed right out of me.
And I think even people that admit to that happening, it's not a consistent thing. I mean, I think we all have our flashes where we're just like, mad men and women, and we're just able to accomplish great things in a short amount of time. But it's not anything that happens on a consistent basis. So there are still bestsellers who have written 50 books who still stare at a blank screen for hours upon hours at some point in their writing career. So that's definitely great advice. I do want to open up the phone lines. We're coming up on the end of our hour, and I want to make sure that you all get your questions answered and you'll walk away with something that is going to help move you forward in your career and journey as an author. So *6 will put you in the queue for questions, and I'll take you as you come. Also, don't forget, if you are sharing socially, to use the hashtag #BeAnAuthor, because it's hard for me to tweet and talk at the same time, and I want to make sure that I go back and see what everybody has posted and what really resonated. Stephanie's given you some great stuff to help keep you inspired and motivated. So I am really excited about that. So make sure you use the hashtag #BeAnAuthor. Stephanie, you ready for some questions?
Bring it on.
All right, we'll take the first one. 6702, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for taking my call.
You're welcome.
And good morning, good afternoon, Stephanie.
Hello.
Yes, I enjoyed the conversation, and you hit on a lot of points. I was taking some notes, and I am one of those people who I have lots and lots of ideas, and I've jotted down lots of titles and many outlines and table of contents, and some I've even sketched, some of the data to go in there. But what I fail to do is have the follow-through to really complete anything. I guess I'm as my husband likes to call me, a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I need to get to the point where I'm mastering what I feel that I have to say. I write lots of things. I write articles and for different little magazines and different things like that. But I feel like I don't know where to begin. And so I did tweet Nikki a note to say, is there something to be said for using a ghost writer, or when would you ever want to do that, or do you want to do that, would be my question.
I'll let Stephanie
Nikki, you want to take that? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll take it. So now tell me, what is your name?
My name is Deborah. I apologize. I was supposed to say
Hi, Deborah.
And
okay,
I'm
Deborah.
living in Florida.
Hi, Florida. Well, I saw a glimpse of snow, which made me really sad. I really want to come down to Florida and see you.
Come on.
May I tough love you a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, so all I'm going to say is, number one, jack of all trades, master of none. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. It's not about mastering anything other than just doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. We all hear this in all these different areas. About a book, Christine Closer said, one imperfect published book beats 10 perfect unpublished books.
Mm-hmm.
Fall forward, Deborah. Just keep falling forward. Pick one. Not the best one, not the most perfect. Just pick one. I don't care if you put the titles in a hat and you draw one out of the hat. Because honestly, no matter which one you pick, and I'm going to say words to you that when somebody said this to me really upset me, your first book's not going to necessarily be your favorite. Probably won't be your favorite. But it'll be your first. And the first is the hardest. It's just the hardest mentally. It's not even necessarily the hardest, it's not that the other one's like my Bad Little Good Girl book, the journey that I need to go on to give that book what it needs it's much harder than the work for A Grateful Woman Talks, like emotionally and spiritually. But all I would say is, Deborah, pick one.
Okay.
Pick one.
Will do.
I agree. We mentioned this yesterday on the call. I mean, I really think that when we just find all these projects to be busy with, but we don't finish any of them, it's just a fear of putting something out there and facing rejection.
or wanting it to be perfect. Wanting any one of them, I don't know exactly everything I need to know about everything about that, or maybe that one won't be perfect, or maybe I need to have finished that one before I fit. And I'm not being mean, because all of us, Deborah, all of us have at some level have felt what you felt. Okay, look, I'm 48 years old. The first year I published my book, that's this past year. Okay, so, all I'm saying is, love yourself. Just know that you love yourself. Know that this book can be imperfect, and just know that your goal is just to be there, and that when you choose that book, just honestly you don't have to have a goal to even publish it. Just have a goal to complete it. Just have a goal to get it to the editor. Sometimes when I have to go to the gym, if I wake up in the morning and I have to already plan to be at the gym, I don't want to go. But if I'm like, I just have to put my shoes on. Okay, I just have to get to the front door. Okay, I just have to go to the gym. If I don't want to work out, you know what I mean? Like, if I just commit to that next step, and then when I'm finally at the gym, I'm good.
Yes.
And so it's everything you're doing and feeling is emotional. Don't give yourself a hard time. But I would say that, it's okay to just keep falling forward. It's okay to just choose one, and it's okay if it's not perfect. It might end up being the most magnificent thing ever. Just love yourself and love it enough to just get it on paper.
Yeah, just to let it go.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
And I'm
glad that I connected with Nikki, because this is really helping me. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're awesome. And just to mention about ghostwriting. I mean, I think ghostwriting is just an option. I think the biggest thing when it comes to ghostwriting is that you find somebody who's qualified to do it, and somebody that you vibe with enough that they're really able to bring your voice to the project, and it's not just them, writing a project. I mean, a ghostwriter, the best ghostwriters really should be able to capture your voice, your essence, and be able to put that in book form. And it's not a skill that everybody has. I mean, just as a writer, it's not something that always translates itself to being a good ghostwriter. So if you decide to go that route, I mean, I would just say interview people well and look at other projects that they've done, and make sure that they're qualified to bring your message to the world. And that's it. So we'll go into the next caller, 6881. How are you?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, hi. This is Diana. I'm calling from California, and I finished writing my book. It's all done. I'm just having a problem with, I don't know if you can hear me good. I have earphones on and I'm driving. Getting it out there on Creative Space and Amazon. I have my book cover. I have everything. Everything is completed, and it's just getting it out there. I had an editor, which I was going through, Arthur House, but they had it 3 months and they didn't do any production on it. So I told them to send me my money back. And so now I'm at the place where I'm like, okay, I could self-publish this myself. But I need to get it out there. I need to get it off of me and complete something. What do you think?
Well, just for my clarification, and maybe Stephanie's as well, where exactly is it? So it's just at your house. You haven't had it edited. You haven't gotten.
I had it edited. It's
so
complete.
It has been edited. And it's
it's complete. I just need to get it.
You're just talking about getting it inside Kindle, getting inside Create Space.
Yes.
Yeah, I would. To me, there are definitely there are people who will do everything from put it in Kindle and create space for you and help you with the launch and the publicity. Because, when we did the publicity, my woman posted something somewhere that ended up being picked up by 200-300 websites, newspapers. It ended up that so now I'm on ABC, NBC, Fox, because all their websites all picked up about my book going to number one. So you can have somebody both do the logistics, right? Just the logistics of getting it in Kindle, which you're right is a process. Get it in Create Space, which I'm in the final phases of that now, and everything does take longer than you think. but getting it into CreateSpace for the paperback version. You could find resources to do that on not Fiverr, but like, Elance, what are those, some of those virtual
Elance,
assistants.
Odesk. Mm-hmm.
Right. You could find people who specifically, and to keep things simple, one thing I'd recommend is just do it in Kindle and CreateSpace. And they'll say, Kindle will have this thing where they'll say, okay, but for the first, I can't remember how long it was, it's only in Kindle, meaning it's not also available on Nook or the other things. Just be like, yeah, that's fine. Let's just get it out there, right? We can always later on put it onto all the other platforms. So I personally enjoyed having it through Kindle, and then there's a Kindle publishing part, and that's for the Kindle one. It's in Amazon, and then there's CreateSpace, which is the Amazon paperback, hardback, the physical book thing. And I feel like if you just started there, that just has so much reach that it's just a great place to start. And you can absolutely find people who have those resources. And then you could see if you also wanted to overlay someone to help you with, like, the launch itself, which is a separate beast.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining the call. We will go to the next question. Anonymous is what you show out there, so I don't know if you're hiding twice, but how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
This is Andrea, and my question is, what are all the things that you focus on when writing?
What do you mean focus on?
As far as like getting started and with writing.
I think that Stephanie really did a good job of talking about outlining. I mean, I think everybody has their own process, but I think the one mistake that I see most people making is they don't come up with an outline. Not having an outline when you're writing a book is like getting in a car and just deciding you're going to drive and hope to end up in Indiana when you start in Dallas. It's just not productive. And it's not always going to turn out the best book, especially when you look at books being of a certain length. I mean, most books are between 60 and 80,000 words. I'm the kind of writer where I write a lot. My editor says I make up adverbs because that's just the kind of writer I am. So if I sat down with an outline, I would come up with 120,000 words, and I wouldn't even be close to where I was trying to go with the book. So outlines for me are essential, and I really don't know any writer that can write a book without an outline. So I think outlines are the biggest thing, and there are different ways to do that. I mean, you can literally, Stephanie gave you her process. I know a lot of people use mind mapping to do their outlining. I use storyboards to do my fiction outlines, but I use mind mapping to do my nonfiction titles. So it's just a process, and there's different ways to do it. Some people don't come up with their title to the end of the book. I have to come up with my title first. Stephanie came up with her graphics to help keep her motivated. So it's a process, but I think that having the outline is one of the most essential first steps.
Okay, thank you.
What do you think, Stephanie?
I also believe that, and again, I just learned this through doing it. In other words, I had a vision of what I wanted that little good girl to be, but I hadn't really taken the time to outline it, whether you mind map, outline. I mean, an outline is more like a left brain. Mind map is sort of just a right brain outline. So it just depends on whatever works best for you. But one of the advantages to writing an outline or doing a mind map, is your book, Andrea, of fiction or nonfiction?
It's fiction.
Oh, it's fiction. So, well, that's exciting. Well, and maybe what I'm going to say, so Nikki, I'll ping pong it back to you, but what I was going to say, one of the things that writing the outline did for me was actually give me a sense of, yes, that's all I want to talk about, and that I had a sense of the completeness of it, like what all the areas were that I was going to cover, stuff like that when I go to deep dive on one, I don't have to pre-write something else because I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to address that in that later chapter, versus if I hadn't already sort of peeled that onion, I wouldn't know it, and then all of a sudden I'd find out that my first chapter was like 10 chapters in one just because I hadn't known exactly what I was going to talk about down the road. So I'm wondering if for a plot line it sort of helps to storyboard it so you know who knows what when and what goes on where, and so that when you do deep dive, you know what to say and not say?
No, absolutely. And like I said, I run into this with every book. So like with my third book, and this is just me being totally transparent, finally I had to call my editor and say, look, I'm 150 pages in, and I'm not even close to trying to bring it home. Not even close. So I had to send her what I had done, and it was like, you need to go through this. You need to let me know where I'm going wrong with this. And that's with an outline. So outlines are really essential. And the other thing that an outline serves, I think, for nonfiction and fiction is that most people I know, and some people, I don't know everybody, but most writers I know don't write a book from page 1 to page 356. So they don't go in sequential order. Like I can write chapter 3 or, maybe like, I usually write romance. So I might not be feeling all lovey-dovey on a Tuesday and want to write the fight scene, But with an outline, I can see what scenes are supposed to go where. So I don't have to write it in. I'm not like thinking it up as I go along. I can jump around. Like maybe I want to just write the technical scene with the detective and the police chief as opposed to writing something that may take more creativity. So outlines are really guides.
The ultimate example of that, Nikki, is when I read the book The Time Traveler's Wife. Now, forget the movie. When I read the book The Time Traveler's Wife, all that I could think about was how much work the author must have done to make it so seamless and effortless for us to just read it as little stories. She had to have storyboarded that at such a level to know that at any instance of time, who would know what and who would have experienced what. And then when she actually wrote about that moment in time, she could just have the two of them interact and could have the simplicity of the communication to us because she had, and I just thought I would love to see the notes that she had to have written in order to make the simplicity of the book. And sometimes the biggest gift, and I know I coach this in project management and in communication, sometimes the biggest gift that we can give someone is to do the due diligence to have clarity in our minds so that we can communicate concisely. Like Pascal says, I would have made this letter shorter if I'd had more time.
Exactly, and I totally agree. Andrea, I hope that helps you.
It did a lot, and thank you, too, so much.
You're welcome. Good luck with the book. You're so soft-spoken. Good luck with your book.
You're so sweet.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think that it's, and then researching, I think that people are a lot smarter than we sometimes give them credit for, and even in fiction and nonfiction. And when we don't do the research and we don't outline it and we don't make sure all of those little loose ends are tied up, sometimes readers can walk away unsatisfied and not fulfilled. And that's one of my, biggest fears, and the one thing I definitely don't want to happen, because I think an unsatisfied reader doesn't trust you always the second time. So, yes. So we're going to take another caller, last number 57, the last four digits, 5716. How are you?
I am well. Hi, Nikki. This is Jotina Buck from Houston, Texas.
Hey, Jotina.
Oh, my goodness. First of all, Stephanie, this has been amazing, and your story has been absolutely inspiring. So I am at the very end of this whole publishing process. My book will be released on February 7th in 2015, Change Your Language, Change Your Life. And I believe my questions are more so
Congratulations.
Thank you. Super. Everything you said, I was like, oh, my God, it's so much affirmation in all of your words, just with, those moments when you can't really get anything out, and then those moments where you have these bursts of, but just to be consistent. But my question specifically is about promotion and leveraging your book. After getting there and having published, what do you do, or what are some strategies just to begin to leverage your book and yourself as an author and speaker?
Who's that for?
Stephanie, why don't you go ahead and take it?
I'll start, but Nikki, you got more books under your belt than I do. One of the things that now, is the book that you're writing fiction or nonfiction?
It's nonfiction.
No, yours is a nonfiction, right?
Yes.
Well, to me, the way that I'm already sort of viewing Bad Little Good Girl is that it's just not the workbook, but it's just sort of the written brain dump of just sort of all of the ideas and concepts and beliefs and stories and stuff like that. And if it works the way I sort of see it, I could see where each chapter would be like a module, where I would sort of do a group coaching where people could work their way through it. And so to me, the repurposing is, it's not about repurposing for the sake of the money. That's fine. But it's about the idea that different people learn different ways, okay? So some people are going to read your book and just, that's how they want it. They're detail-oriented, they're methodical, they're thinking the way you wrote it. That is going to serve them the most. There are other people who are like, I need to read a little, do a little, talk a little. Read a little, do a little, talk a little. So I would look at it and say, how could I create an environment where this book could become a tool for learning? That this would be an aid to support it, and maybe, almost like it could even be like a book review where, okay, they're going to have to read chapter 5, and then we're going to have a group coaching call, and we're going to answer questions about it, and maybe I've given them a worksheet for it. So it's just, to me, the repurposing comes from, number one, their learning style and how you think that they can best do that. But number two, maybe out of your book, like one chapter or one thought is what everybody keeps coming back to. And you realize that's my deep dive. It's not the whole book. It was actually this one thing that I did in chapter 3 that really was the most important thing to everybody, and I'm going to actually create a workshop just on that. So I think part of it, like out of Grateful Woman Talks, I just listened to what people wanted.
I think that's really important, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that and Dotina, I'm just going to put you back on hold real second, because I really want to honor everybody's time, and I appreciate Stephanie, taking out an hour of her day for me today. So I want to make sure I get her off of here in time. But that was a really, really great point that you made, because I think that most of us understand sometimes books are really just expensive business cards, and it's how you leverage that for further healing in the world that really makes a difference. And even with fiction authors and some of the clients that I've worked with, we've been able to come up with themes. Like my books are relationship books, and a lot of them are about working through those relationship issues, and I've been able to turn that into group coaching curriculum just based on a fiction book. So being able to take it, I think, one step further, I think has been really phenomenal. And I would encourage everybody to follow Stephanie on her different social media platforms to see how she does that, because you really do a great job of organically promoting what you do with the talks and what you do with the books and just who you are in general. And I think there's a lot of people who are looking to be authors could learn a lot from you just in the way that you organically share the information that's based on the talks and that's in the book and that you're going to be sharing with your next book.
Oh, thank you, Nikki.
You are welcome. So like I said, I really appreciate you being on this call. I think that you have phenomenal energy, and I just always like being in your space in one form or the other. So I'm really grateful for you and who you are and what I've learned from you personally and professionally, and just what you continue to do in this world. So just know that, that we love and we appreciate you for who you are.
I just got two things to say to that. One of them is thank you, and the other one's woohoo!
And we appreciate you guys being on the call as well. We will.
These questions were rock star questions,
weren't they? People, and that's why I love question and answer, because it's like we could talk for hours and hours and hours, but there's that one person that comes up with that great question that I wouldn't even have thought about covering. So,
well, I mean, and tell them if there's somebody who had a question specifically, especially about anything that we talked about, like they can always post it to you in the group on our Facebook pages or whatever, and we'll still respond.
No, we absolutely will. I agree. And that's why I wanted to try to get everybody to use the hashtag Be an Author, but Stephanie is all over Facebook. Stephanie is all over Twitter. So if you Google her, you'll find her Twitter handle, and you can find her everywhere, and I'll answer questions as well. So just
and are you going to give them the link to the gifts I got them?
I am. I'm emailing that. Is that okay, or you want to give it now?
No. You absolutely can email it. It's just everybody. I created a page for, like, I have a little smorgasbord of stuff. I do a bit of, like, where's my jack of all trades woman? I'm a jack of all trades. I got a little bit of gear, a little bit of tele-summit success, a little bit of coaching, Grateful Woman Talks, all this stuff. And so I created a Grateful Woman, and we spell grateful, GREATFUL, gratefulwoman.com/gifts. And it just has a bunch of little gifts, a bunch of links to stuff and gifts to stuff, and you can have a free speaker on Grateful Woman Talks. You could get a free webinar on tele-summit success. I just put the buffet there, and you can just cherry pick whatever you want.
And that was makes you awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. You can join me back here at 7 p.m. Eastern. Christian Keys is going to be our next author. If you Google Christian Keys, you will thank me later. I'll just say that. Guys, you may not thank me, but ladies, you will. You'll thank me later. But he'll be up, and he'll be talking about using your book to not only change your career, but also how you can make it into a movie and continue to do good things with your book. So thanks again, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
And I'll see you at 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys have a rock star day.